Hey everyone, Kevin Walt here. I'm back again for part two of my interview with Mark Horoszowski, founder of Moving Worlds. We had some technical difficulties in our last interview, so I actually have more than one shirt, so you'll see that it's a different color now. You'll be glad to know. So we're a week later, but we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. So, Mark, I think in our last conversation, we talked a lot. We learned a little bit about moving worlds and the awesome work you're doing. We learned. I think you gave us some told us that when you were getting started, a lot of the ways you did for sort of get insight into what the market needed and whether or not the market was going to work for the business was by being helpful, helping the potential, the corporate partners and the academic institutions who might want someone to come and travel to where they're doing and help them do a socially responsible project, and then the people looking for opportunities to travel. And I think you talked a little bit about how you were being helpful. Being helpful was important for you to get that going. I guess what I'm wondering is a lot of entrepreneurs hear other entrepreneurs talk about, hey, be helpful. It's a great way to get out there and get your business going and your reputation. And to learn what the market wants, but then they kind of sit back at their computer and they don't know what to do. So can you talk a little bit about some of the tactics, some of the things that you guys have done that have worked, what hasn't worked, especially at different stages where you were with growing the business?
Sure. Yeah, and I think maybe to set the stage for that, right? I think there's kind of two truths, right, for us, and I would think for most startups, right? One is if you're solving a problem, then people are having this problem, and they're either paying or they're searching for some way to solve a problem, right? And the other one is everybody that learns about your service will not pay for your service, right? So the majority of people that are coming to or that were coming to the Moving Worlds website, we knew wouldn't actually be using us, right? But they could still maybe be champions for us. That said, even if we knew that they weren't going to choose our service, we knew that they still had this problem. They were still looking and spending a lot of time and resources trying to find a place to volunteer their skills overseas. So we kind of stepped back and said, okay, we still need to learn a ton about the people that we best serve and how to refine our messaging to improve our own product and service. And even if these people aren't going to choose us, well, they still have this problem. And we have training and resources and some really great stories that could help them. So kind of set up a quid pro quo thing, right? We said, look, I personally spent over a year volunteering around the world. My co-founder spent a lot of time supporting volunteers, and we essentially said, look, you probably have questions about volunteering overseas. You can ask me anything. I promise not to sell you, but in exchange, I would love to be able to ask you some questions about who you are, why you're doing something like this, and what you understand our service to be or not to be. And so we started by doing that just first in email. So for everybody that had started the registration process but wasn't completing, we just shot a personal email. We actually used Streak CRM and did some mail merge in there to personalize it but still get a little bit of scale. And we just started saying, hey, we see that you're interested in volunteering overseas. Here's a blog post that we just wrote on that topic. Can I give you some tips on how to actually do this on your own? And in exchange, can I ask you some questions? Again, I promise not to sell you. We exist for this social purpose, this mission, and this is a problem we're trying to solve. We're just trying to make it better. And that actually got a decent response. Some people just responded over email and just said, look, not really interested at the time. I'm just kind of doing research. A lot of other people said, yeah, I'll get on Skype with you, and then we played the kind of scheduling game back and forth for a while. And then after that is when we learned about So Helpful, which kind of automated part of that process a little bit. And then we've gone and actually included that as a link in a lot of these emails, just to say, hey, schedule time with us. And as we're learning. So that one was really, really helpful. And then using the stories of our experts here, so of our early customers, again, not as sales stories, but it's just, this is who the people are, this is how they left, and here's some kind of hacks or tips and tools that they use. And we just tried to share that with people that weren't signing up. And that's where we actually learned that our messaging was off target, and the key thing that people were really looking for is something that we were inherently providing our service, but not ever communicating. And so it actually kind of revamped our marketing messaging, and when we rolled out some of those tests, it actually tripled conversion.
Wow, Mark, that is great. You had so many good tips, and I think I could continue this for like another hour here, asking you more details about this. But it sounds. I guess what I've observed is that you get the sense that today, because like analytics are hot and metrics are hot, there's so much written and so much talk about using data and analytics and data scientists to test stuff out. But when I talk to entrepreneurs who are actually doing this stuff, who are getting companies that are growing, they do all that, but they also spend a huge amount of time one-on-one with their like they get deep down to get real insight instead of just looking at, hey, how are people using my app and how can I A/B test a landing page.
Right.
Yeah, has that been your experience as well?
Yeah, for the longest time, right? We're building a business that's reliant on technology to scale, and so for the longest time, we're like, we've got to figure out scale. We've got to do everything at scale. We've got to do surveys at scale. We have to do everything at scale. And surveys came back meaningless or unresponded. And when a real person reaches across, even over email, you can tell that there's a difference. And people respond to that, right? I think people are tired of every business and no personal support, right? People are, like, think about Amazon, right? Amazon has included incredible customer services. They've continued to grow, not cut back on it, right? And I think that being able to get on the phone to talk to somebody about a service, that's what the higher value consumers are expecting. And so as we were trying to get this data to figure things out, I mean, our data it's not actually making sense because the data said everybody wants this service, and then like not our conversion rates were too
right, exactly. Yeah.
Right? And so you get on and you start talking to people and they tell you things like, wow, I think your service is incredible, but your messaging is actually really bad because I thought X, Y, Z. And in the long term, those people go on to make referrals, right? And so yeah, it is interesting. We still look at data. We still try and take all our interviews and put those in Excel spreadsheets so we can manipulate the data and make sense of it. But at the end of the day, having somebody just tell you about their real problem is just something we couldn't ever extract from a survey, and we wasted a lot of time. And I think Birds and Bridges trying to survey people too much.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think, Mark, it's exactly how I'm running my business too, and it's almost like the interviews and the face-to-face stuff allowed me to come up with hypotheses and assumptions about, well, I think this particular persona has these needs, these problems, and then the data is just sort of like the verification, the refining of that. But the data itself, it doesn't really lead me to specific insights because I don't have any context for even thinking about the situation.
Right.
Great. Well, hey, Mark, we're gonna wrap these things up there. But Mark, this was super educational for me. Thank you so much for sharing all this fantastic advice here. So, I guess the last question is, new entrepreneur starting out. Obviously, what you're doing is going to be incredibly inspiring to a lot of people, especially the people that have been maybe graduated college within the last 5 to 10 years that don't want to just work on Wall Street and want to do a socially responsible enterprise. Just one or two quick pieces of advice for them. If you said, hey, you're somebody that starts out and they want to be where Mark is, and maybe they're 2 or 3 years behind you, and they want to be the kind of entrepreneur that you are, what's some advice that you would give them?
Yeah, the first one would don't be the entrepreneur that I am because I've made too many mistakes. But I think the second one is just start, right? Like, so we use this example of expert tiering, right? So volunteer your skills overseas. We call it a gateway drug. Like once you go and just see that even in your own little world, the little skills that you have can actually make a really big difference, and in the act of applying those, you also really start to grow and develop really fast. And I think it's so easy to learn and read and take classes on entrepreneurship or social entrepreneurship. Nothing beats doing, right? And so create some hypotheses of your own of why are you not starting your thing yet, and then just start chipping those away and just do and try and learn fast. And I think hopefully you can learn faster than we learned, and you can use some of these incredible tools like Kevin's got here for you to learn from the mistakes of others and come back here and impress us with what you've done.
Thanks a lot, Mark. And however bad your mistakes were, I would bet that mine were much, much bigger. So we can have maybe over a drink sometime. We can have them we can have
Yeah,
the
exactly.
great mistake shakedown. But I'll come on top. So Mark, thanks again. So let's just a final shout out here. So if you're an organization, I guess academic or a social responsible company, and you're looking for people to maybe help grow your business, some skills to bring in your organization for people who are interested in having a social responsible travel abroad. Go to movingworlds.org. And I guess the second one is if you're somebody who's looking for that kind of cultural experience, and instead of just going and sitting in a tourist trap in a hotel somewhere, if you want to travel to someplace interesting and actually do something, make a contribution, and get new skills, movingworlds.org. Thanks a lot, Mark. Really appreciate the time you spent with us today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, Kevin.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.